What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. And in the NHL season, every team is past 30-game mark. Some are cup contenders, some are bottom feeders, and others are in that no man's land, maybe fighting for playoffs or in playoffs. So I thought it would be an interesting video to go along and tier each of those teams based on where I think they're at right now and where I guess I could see them being at the end of this season. It's going to be a very interesting one, so make sure you stick around. But before we get into it, make sure you like, subscribe, ring that bell, and comment. I want to know if you think I'm absolutely wrong, I'm right, if there's something you agree with or not, and where you think your team's going to be right, or where you think your team is, I should say, right now, and at the end of the season as well. But let's not wait any longer. Let's get right into the video. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be evaluating where the team is right now and then where I think they're going to be towards the end of the season. Now, I think we've got a pretty good look at most teams here to know what they're going to be. So we've put through cup favorite, playoff lock, battling, no man's land, and bottom feeder. Now, this is going to be a very interesting one because we're starting off with the Anaheim Ducks, a team that I don't think people were going to be expecting them to go after that bottom feeder spot for the first overall, but some were also expecting them to be battling for the playoffs, and that's exactly what they're doing right now. And maybe not much battling because they're tied for first in the Pacific. With the Anaheim Ducks, I think there is a lot of learning moments. They're 5-4-1 in their last 10, and I think we're starting to see, that experience shine through with these younger guys. And, you didn't have Dostal for a while. He's back now, but that did hurt them. So I want to see how they try to bounce back from this. Now, where they are right now, I think you could say playoff lock easy. But I think towards the end of the season, it's pretty fair to say that they'll be battling. And I think that's where I'm going to put them right now. Again, you can deny this from me and say that they're just going to be that playoff lock. And they very well could be, considering how they've been on the season as a whole. But I'm just going to leave them in battling for now and move on to the Boston Bruins, a team that, has had a lot of nice surprises. Morgan Geekie is, I think he's like, second or third in most goals in the NHL. David Pastrnak is going. Jeremy Swayman looks good and probably will make Team USA. I'm still on that fence about him or Knight. We'll see how that one goes. But it seems like things are pretty decent for the Boston Bruins. Now, again, where they are right now compared to where they're going to be at the end of the season, I don't hate them as a battling team just because of how bad the Atlantic has been and how inconsistent it's been. And I think that's starting to level out. Like, we've seen the Panthers kind of get it on in the last little bit. But still, you're expecting those bigger teams like Toronto. Detroit's kind of done something there. The Habs are kind of in that murky middle right now, depending on what's going to happen with their goaltending. There's so much unknown that I think for the Boston Bruins, it's not outside to put them in the battling spot, considering how they're playing. But I don't know if I'd put them in the no man's land. So I think that the battling would be pretty fair. And then there's the Buffalo Sabres, a team that has just switched over their GM. Of course, Kevin Adams, he's out. Jarmo Kekalainen is in. A lot of experience, giving their first playoff win in Columbus for them. But that's really all he did. And now he's taking over a team that is just struggling to do anything. Now, I kind of want to put them in no man's land because they might not actually be that true bottom feeder, but at the same time, it's the Buffalo Sabres, so you really don't know. I think if things continue to go how they've done or how they've gone with this team is just, not great goaltending. It's been okay. Some guys underperforming. And as a whole, it just hasn't been good. Probably some of their stars wanting to leave. So when I see the Buffalo Sabres right now, I think I got to put them in bottom feeder. Again, it's sad to say they haven't made the playoffs in so long. That fan base just wants so much from them. They're not getting it. I think bottom feeder is fair right now, considering what we're seeing. But they might move into that no man's land. And who knows? Maybe if, Lindy Ruff turns them around or John Tortorella comes in, who knows? Maybe they find themselves battling. I don't know. Again, it's a weird Atlantic, as I was saying, so I'm going to put them right there. Calgary Flames. I think it's pretty easy to put them in that bottom feeder. I wouldn't say no man's land because they have kind of looked a little bit better. But yeah, I think bottom feeder is pretty fair. I think they should be selling more. Rasmus Anderson's probably that one piece to go this year, and as he should. I believe he's in the last year of his contract, which is so good on the AAV. And he's a solid defenseman that any team on the right side would need. Dallas Stars, hope you're listening. Bottom feeder, pretty fair to say. The Carolina Hurricanes are an really interesting one because I think that they're one second line center away, even though I love Logan Stankoven. Shout out to him. He's a big friend of the pod. They've kind of figured out their goaltending a bit. Brendan Bussey has given them some stability. Crazy how he was that, just waiver wire, pickup. So when I look at the Carolina Hurricanes and how they are, I don't think we're crazy to say that they could be, excuse me, I didn't mean to put them in the battling there. I don't think we're crazy to say a cut favorite as long as they add, but I kind of want to put them in that playoff lock. I think we're going to put them right there, and I'm going to see how this whole thing goes. But Carolina is an easy playoff lock. It's just about figuring out a couple of things. Like, is that goaltending going to be solid for the whole season and into the playoffs, right? Can Brandon Bussey keep doing that and give Anderson some games off so he can just stay healthy? Is Peter Kochetkov ever going to be that guy? We'll see. And then, of course, that 2C that I think they're desperately missing. The Chicago Blackhawks, I would love to see them battle, and genuinely, I would love to see how they do throughout this whole season, but they've kind of fallen off a bit. I think we're all expecting that, and no, they're not in no man's land. I think I probably should have added another one where it says, hey, this team is just rebuilding nicely. They're kind of doing their thing. So I think bottom feeder is where they're going to end up being, and that's just how it's going to go. Like, this Bedard injury is going to prolong that suffering, where they were seeing a lot of just good progression from their young stars, especially Bedard, who was having a breakout season and now might be out for 3 to 8 weeks. They're going to evaluate him in January, but I don't expect it to be anything different. I wouldn't really want to rush them. There's no need to. So I kind of just see how it goes. They're going to be a bottom feeder. That's just where it is. The Colorado Avalanche, I think we all know where I'm going with this one, but this team has turned what their expectations were to maybe a playoff team battling because of the depth, and now they look just so good. I mean, this is kind of built on a lot of things for the Colorado Avalanche. I mean, when you have Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, that's one thing, but when other aspects of your team is working, like the depth, right? You talk about Victor Olofsson, who has scored a decent amount here, and he's on a great contract. On that back end, aside from Cale Makar, you have others like Brett Burns, who has looked pretty decent on that bottom pair. Devon Taves, he's always just solid. Samuel Girard. And then, of course, Scott Wedgwood, who had to step in at the start of the season to replace Blackwood, who was hurt, and he looked great. And now that goalie duo is just so solid and so good. And I think this is the first one that I'll put in Cup favorite, or at least the Cup contender spot, because, again, I might move the Carolina Hurricanes. We'll see how this one goes. We will evaluate as this goes on. But Colorado is the easy one to put in here just because of how they've looked. I think even Brock Nelson has been pretty consistent for them. And I've mentioned this before. If you get a year and a half or even a little bit more of that contract out of the 3 years and he's still good, you take that any day over the last year where he's just very okay, I guess. I think that's very fair for him. But yeah, Colorado, easily Cup favorite. The Columbus Blue Jackets, I struggle to put them in the battling spot because the no man's land, we might have to rename that and say teams that are also just kind of figuring themselves out. Columbus kind of is doing that this year, even after last season where they looked so good. They were battling for a playoff spot up until almost the last day, and it just didn't work out for them. So for Columbus, how they're looking this year, I still think you're figuring out your team in some pieces and aspects, and it's coming together. But you're also not getting some great performances from others. Like Elvis Merzlikins has been worse than fine. I think Jet Greaves is finally going through that, space where he needs to adjust. And like how he was last year, being in the AHL, then coming up to the NHL, being so good. I think we should have expected just a little bit of a learning moment from it. And I think that's what we're getting. He's still been good, but, maybe not as electric as everyone, I guess, maybe was expecting from last year to carry over into this year. Columbus, really bright future. I'd be okay with putting them in battling. Maybe we'll have to switch the name of No Man's Land to just improvement. But I think that's very fair for them. and how they're going to look. Oh, that does not look good, does it? That does not look good at all. It's just not looking good. We're gonna have to see how that one goes, but yeah, no, it's not working. Yeah, oh god, this is just not working at all. We're just gonna take that out, and we're gonna say what we know it is. Okay, we're gonna put Columbus there right now. The Dallas Stars. I mean, this is another team where I say they need to add, but have done pretty well considering all the injuries that they've had to deal with this year. I wouldn't be against putting them in the cup favorite spot, which is kind of crazy when you consider that that's now two teams from the Central in the cup favorite spot. Again, this is a team that I think needs to add. Losing Taylor Seguin does not help at all, and he's had such trouble with injuries. So I think that if you put them in the cup favorite spot, and you know what, I think I'm okay with putting Carolina there too as well. I probably should have put them there at first. But again, teams that need to add, but I think that should be cup favorites, right? They've been that good. Detroit has been a very intriguing one, and I love it because I'd love to see them back in the playoffs, and I think that their pieces are starting to gel and really starting to work, courtesy of John Gibson, who has been really good in the last 4 games, I believe, like a 958. He's had 2 shutouts after I absolutely ripped him on the video. Coincidence? I think not. No, it probably is a coincidence, but everyone's been doing well. You talk about Larkin, how good he's been, how consistent he's been. Lucas Raymond, even that back end with Simon Evanson, Moritz Seider, and just everyone kind of stepping up. Even Axel Sandin Pellikka, who as a rookie has looked pretty stable. That's all you can hope for. Just something stable on that back end. And again, it's not perfect, and I don't think it will be perfect for a bit until he adds just some good pieces into there. But it's coming. It's coming along. That's what you hope for. And I think battling's pretty fair. Where they are right now, I mean, like they're still pretty top of the Atlantic, but I think battling is where they will be. Again, it's a good East, so we'll see how it goes. The Edmonton Oilers, they pick up Tristan Jarry. He gets hurt tonight, but you know he's been fine through the first couple of games. But again, I think the Oilers are still a playoff lock, and I mean, why not? Zach Hyman has looked great after coming back from his injury. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are just absolutely buzzing and look good. Vasily Podkolzin, I'm pretty sure, is having a nice breakout year. He has 9 goals and 16 points. And, you know, even Evan Bouchard has kind of leveled out his game, even though he's still had his pretty signature shaky moments on the season. So I'm okay with playoff lock. And I just want to see more. I think I need to see more from them. And I struggle to put them in cup favorite right now because even though from the past 2 seasons, they've just done it with bad goaltending. They've done it with good goaltending. They've done it with the depth that they thought everyone think they needed on the back end and everywhere else. I just think it's a different year. And I think there are better teams than them that will take them down. And maybe I'm just throwing up from the other years that everyone was saying the same thing. But I'm going to go playoff lock for now. Very fair. We'll see how it goes. The Florida Panthers, at the start of the season, I think it was fair to assume, considering that Barkov and Tkachuk were out, that they might be battling. And I think that's where I'm going to put them right now. Even though that they've been on that streak, you have to think that something's going to happen in this Atlanta. Like Tampa Bay is better than what they've been this season because they've been solid, but they've also been very streaky and just not consistent. Now, this is partly undue because Vasilevsky has been very in and out of the lineup. But, you know, you have to think that Toronto is going to start to find it. You have to think that Detroit might be just consistent and battling for that spot and taking points away from other teams and really being a presence there. Maybe Montreal, who we're going to get to pretty soon, starts to pick it up and their goaltending kind of levels out. There's so many factors. And when you're getting Matthew Tkachuk soon, but you're still missing that top center who facilitates so much, it's so hard to think where they could be. And I think battling's pretty fair because I think they do make playoffs. I think they're one of those wild card teams. But with how they're doing right now, which has been pretty good, and then you add Tkachuk into that, they could easily be that playoff lock. So I'm not going to, say they're just going to miss it. But again, you have to be realistic to be what could happen versus just how they are right now. LA Kings. Man, they are probably one of the more mid teams, and I would love to put them in the no man's land because that's truly what they are as a team. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about just where I think they're going to be ending up at the end of the year. And I don't think they're going to be in that no man's land spot. They're probably going to be battling for the playoffs. And I think that's a very fair spot to put them in. You talk about what's on the line, I would love for them just to battle and get Kopitar at least past the first round because he's retiring this season. I think that Darcy Kemper has looked very, very good. Even on that back end, Drew Doughty, a lot of people hate on him. He's still fine. He's still doing his thing. Brent Clark has looked a little bit better. Adrian Kempe has been just rolling after signing that extension, and a couple of other things. Like, I don't know what the Kings need to add. I think they really need that true superstar, and I think that's what they were looking for in free agency with Mitch Marner. Apparently, there was a lot of rumors there, and apparently there wasn't. But that is what they're missing. And Kempe has been that, but he's not that. He's just not that game breaker. And again, you can argue that. That's fine. But they just don't have that willpower that other teams have kind of pushed onto them. Like, you look at the past couple of years with the Edmonton Oilers, you don't have that McDavid, Draisaitl, those game breakers who have just taken over the series. It's what they've done every time. And usually it's been in less games. It's just how it is. So yeah, Kings, I'll go battling. The Minnesota Wild to go and trade for Quinn Hughes, who, oh my God, who just totally go all in, at least for this year and next. And now that back end looks so good. And the only spot that you truly need to add to is just get another center. And yeah, they could be that contender and kind of move everything down. Now, you might have to throw away some pieces like a Daniel Urov and maybe a couple of others, maybe like a David Urachek and others. But again, this team is good. It's just about how they can kind of form this all together. Are they a battling team? No, I think they're a playoff lock. I think considering how their goaltending tandem has been, probably the best in the NHL right now with Jesper Wallstedt and Philip Gustafsson, like, how can you not like what the Minnesota Wild have done so far this season and what they are doing? You got to love it. I mean, that 1-2 punch of Hughes and Kaprizov could be deadly in the playoffs and actually could get them past the first round for the first time in 10 years, possibly to the conference final for the first time in what? It's like 22 years, and maybe to their first cup final in ever. So we'll see how that one goes. Montreal. They started off so well, and I think that's just like, you were so excited for this team, and then they just started to taper off. A big part in that to goaltending. Senio Montembeault gets sent down to the AHL on a conditioning stint. Dobich looked good today in that win 4-1, and I think that's a positive, but you want to see some consistency from this team. You cannot have Jacob Fowler, who I still think needs to be seasoned a lot more in the AHL, where he's been good. But again, you see those moments where it's those learning curves and just shows that he's not ready. You need Montembeault to be that guy who he was last year, or at least something close to that. And of course, Dobich is still young, but you know he can be that. He's a little bit more seasoned. He has a little bit more time. So yeah, you've liked what you saw tonight on Thursday. But, what more can we expect? I want to see more. So Montreal, I think I'm going to go battling. I wouldn't say playoff lock yet. But again, like this role might just be filled up at the end of this. So we'll kind of see how it goes. The Nashville Predators. Again, another team where I think where I'm going with this, has looked a little bit better over the last bit. And I think that's because Forsberg has kind of turned it on a bit and been that guy that we all know and we love and how good he's been, but he just hasn't been as consistent as I think we've hoped. Now, when it comes to the Nashville Predators, I think that in this one instance, you kind of need to say, please sell. Just as the fans, I think, are saying, just please sell. It's enough of whatever this experiment was. And I'll admit, I was pretty fully on this. I thought they were going to be really good a couple of years ago. It did not work out. And yeah, it's a bottom feeder team. Maybe a little bit of a quick retool if you get the first overall and a little bit more from all the picks that you've kind of gotten. We'll see. But Nashville is just like what happened? Like, what happened? And I think we're also kind of scratching our heads about this, maybe just taking on older contracts that were just right on the verge of regression, and it happened. So yeah, bottom feeder. New Jersey Devils. When this team has Jack Hughes, they're absolutely buzzing. And when they don't, they are so inconsistent. I don't get it. And I think that has a big thing to do with their depth, their center depth specifically, which is why they've been linked to a guy in Philip Deneau who has asked for a trade out of LA. And I think he would fit in a lot of spots and in a lot of these teams that we've already ranked so far. But the New Jersey Devils, I think when you have Hughes back, they are that playoff lock. And I think that's very fair to say. They dominate and look so good, but that guy's just made of glass. So I struggle to just I don't want to put them in battling, but that's kind of where I think they might be. I think at the end of the season, I think that's where it is. I think the New Jersey Devils are a playoff lock. I think they're going to get there. And I'm just going to leave it there. The New York Islanders, the biggest surprise of the NHL season as a team. I mean, you got to say so. Like this, they've done all the right things to succeed. And I just wonder, even if they're doing well, should they still sell? Like, yes, but everyone's been so good. Like, you talk about how much of a game changer Matthew Schaefer has been on that back end. He's done wonders for them offensively, defensively. He's just been like this jolt of energy into a team that has just been so gloomy for so many years with Lou Lamoriello. And you gotta love it if you're an Islanders fan. You have to be so excited. And I would be too, but I'm also annoyed because why is this team doing so well when we're supposed to be rebuilding and just pushing along this mid? Like, this team's not going to win a cup, and it's exciting to see what they can do, like this ethical tank. But at the end of the day, like, I want to see them to be that bottom feeder, but I also can see them being that battling. I don't think they're in the they might be in the no man's land right now. I think at the end of the season, considering how they're doing right now, Sorokin's game has been going from downhill to now this year it's been uphill. Like, you kind of have to take that in consideration and be like, where are we right now? What is this? So I think they might be in that no man's land only because, and again, this is also the slash improvement that we couldn't fit in this box. But I think they're there because they're going to continue to have this growth and be that. And they're not going to get that number one pick, maybe. But yeah, they might be in that. They might be at like 9 or 10 or something like that. But they're not going to be down there. So I'm just going to put the improvement spot. Again, improvement / no man's land. We'll see how it goes. Moving on. New York Rangers. Man, there's so much bad going on with this team. And it all started at the start of the season where they just could not win at home. They were fine on the road, and now they just kind of suck, and they're inconsistent, and they're not good. And I think that they should trade Artemi Panarin, who clearly just wants the money-hungry stuff, and that's what he's looking for, has said, I would love to stay in New York, but, I mean, we ask you to take a pay cut so we can win, and you don't want to do it after all the money that you've kind of gotten over the years. Yeah, no, buddy. Hit the road. The Rangers, again, it's hard for a team like this, Original Six, who has so much pride, brings in so much money, to sell in a guy like that and really just say, hey, guys, yeah, we're going to quit on you. And I get it. Like, look, you're not a cup favorite. You're not a playoff lock. And battling, I think, is fair. But again, like, you might have to put them in the no man's land. And that's a real no man's land right now because things are just very mid. And that's just what it is. So, look, I think I'm going to put them in battling right now just because there's so much talent on that team. And I think that guys are starting to really fit into their positions to where you can be excited and be them. And when you have Igor Shesterkin, you kind of have to say, yeah, he can will you to a playoff spot and be that guy, which is so crazy. But yeah, I would struggle between those two spots. I'm going to go battling right now towards the end of the season, but it's just been interesting. Very interesting towards everything. The Ottawa Senators. Yes, a team that is, I've always liked Ottawa. And if you know my my bet, I guess that it is, if I think they're going to be top 3 in the Atlantic. If they're not, I have to go sit in a parliamentary meeting with no electronics, nothing. I just have to sit there and I guess try to like it. I don't know. We're going to see how that one goes. The Ottawa Senators, I think they're going to be battling. I think, again, it's a hard Atlantic, but I would love to see them in that playoff lock spot because I think they have so much of that talent, and I think they are going to make playoffs. But I think at the end of the day, battling is a fair spot. It's going to be like, you look, I already have the Habs, the Panthers, the Wings, and the Bruins in that battling spot. And this isn't even considering the other side for the Metro that's going to be battling for wild card, which has been pretty good. So, yeah, I think battling, again, very fair spot for them. Let's move on. Philadelphia Flyers. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think that you kind of have to sit here and say everything looking good. You'd kind of want them to be in this bottom feeding spot because you still need that another center in your system to kind of be there. And Trevor Zegras is kind of turning into that and found his game again in Philly. And I think you have to love that. Mishkov has kind of had a very mess season so far, maybe a little bit of a sophomore slump. But I could see them doing it. Everything's kind of working for them, and I think that battling is very fair right now, considering where they are now. Towards the end of the season, this is where you're going to have to make that thing, because right now they're here. I don't think they're going to be here, but I also don't think they're going to be here. This is the tough spot, so I think you kind of have to put them in that improvement spot, and that's where I'm going to put them. Again, it says no man's land. Again, it's improvement. Pittsburgh Penguins, bottom feeder. I think they're starting to turn into that. Like, this great start to the season was awesome. You kind of have to ride it out and let that excellence go as it was with Sidney Crosby and Malkin. But now you traded away Jari, who was very good for you. You bring in Skinner and Kulak, expiring contracts that might be moved anyway for assets. This is a team that I see being a bottom feeder at the end of the day. There's just too much to hold on to. Like, look, it would be great if we saw Sidney Crosby in the playoffs again. And who knows, maybe he gets traded and we see that. But at the end of the day, let's be real, Pittsburgh is not making the playoffs. They're not in that no man's land, and there is some improvement, but it is, you got to be that bottom feeder. They're there with those 4 other teams right now that I have on the screen. Yeah, put them there. They're not good. San Jose Sharks. You know what? They're kind of teeter-tottering on that 500 spot, and I love what they've done. I think Celebrini has carried them there. Will Smith is having a nice breakout season, as he should. And you have a lot of other spots, or guys, I should say, kind of moving and grooving into their positions. I think Askarov is having a fine season considering what team is in front of him. I think there are other guys who are playing pretty well, even as their veterans are, and Alex Wenberg and Tyler Toffoli. Yeah, you know what? I think at the end of the day, they are going to be that bottom feeder, and they are going to be for that number 1 pick, and hopefully defenseman, which they need. Keaton Verhoff, you like that? Maybe not. But yeah, so I think that's where they are going to be at the end of the year. But I like what they've done, and I think you could put them in that improvement spot. But I think at the end of the day, they're going to be battling for that number 1 overall pick. Seattle, easily a no man's land. Easily, they've shown that they can kind of get above that, but yeah, I don't see them fighting for a playoff spot. I also don't see them being terrible enough to be that bottom feeder. And again, it sounds like there might be trades in a guy like Mason Marchment and maybe some others, as they should be trading them. But we haven't really seen that yet. And we also haven't seen Seattle try to, other than that one season, try to push for a playoff spot. They haven't made any moves. They don't have any game-breaking stars, but they also don't have a terrible team. Again, it's that murky middle, a bunch of middle 6 guys for the most part that aren't going to will this team over. And I don't see, anybody else stepping up. So yeah, no man's land, a true no man's land team. The St. Louis Blues. That's very disappointing for me to do when I created a video saying, yeah, they're good, and gave reasons why, and literally listed every reason of why they're actually bad now. Jordan Binnington hasn't been that guy, and where he might actually not even get a spot in Team Canada. I think he does just because of what he's done in the past, but he probably isn't the starter now. Very fair. Other guys who just haven't been that dominant. Robert Thomas has been good, but remember, he was kind of hurt for a bit. Braden Shen has been fine. Pavel Buchnevich has been fine. The rookies haven't been totally ecstatic. I think that Holloway has been good, but then he got hurt. Broberg's been fine. Like, just a lot of fine in this lineup. And I was expecting it to be good, at least here, but they're not. They're not. And they might be selling, and I think that's fine because they still are in this retool. But going from a team that took Winnipeg to Game 7, and then now you're just probably going to be fighting for number 1 overall. Yikes, not good. The Tampa Bay Lightning, I think playoff lock's very fair for them. Again, we kind of talked about this with the in and out of Andrei Vasilevsky with his injuries, but this team is good enough to where they can just carry on. Brandon Hagel feels like he's aged like wine in this season. Started off very meh, but then has just gotten so much better to the point where it went from, will he be on Team Canada as that winger because other guys are outperforming him, to now he's still that lock again. And as he should be, he's so good. And he just has that bite to him. You just have to love it. And then, of course, you have the guys like Kucherov. Hedman's out now, but Darren Radish has weirdly stepped up. So they've had those things go right for them. And it might just be one of those seasons where everything's kind of going right and everything's fitting into place when other guys fall out. So, yeah, I would say Tampa Bay Lightning right now, playoff lock, but I still think there are other things that they need to add to get up there with Colorado, Dallas, and Carolina. The Toronto Maple Leafs, my team. Oh God. Like I just I don't even know what to say because so many things have gone wrong. It's very frustrating. Again, so we've talked about how good the Atlantic is and how good it should be. It's getting there, right? There are teams who are starting to fit into those molds. Kind of Boston's kind of doing that right now. Detroit's having their time. Florida has been on a roll, and you still have Montreal and Ottawa, who I think easily could be playoff teams. And I think Ottawa is going to be a playoff team. I'm just still a little bit hesitant on that. But Toronto, between injuries, guys not showing up, and just a lack of urgency sometimes, it kind of makes me want to put them in no man's land because they're not bad enough to where they should be in that bottom feeder spot, but they haven't shown me that they should be in that battling spot. And that is so frustrating as a Leafs fan to see that with all the talent that you have. So now it doesn't help when you have one of your best defensemen out in Chris Tanev who just blocks a shot whenever and is not afraid of that puck. And I think at the end of the season, they will be battling, at least. I don't think they're in that no man's land yet. I don't think that they're that Seattle Kraken team, but I think they should be in that battling spot. No matter if it means they're just a couple points out and they eventually don't make it, I still think that they're going to be there. Vancouver Canucks. They make that trade for Quinn Hughes. They acknowledge that they're in this weird retool, probably rebuild, hopefully. I don't know about no man's land. I think that they're going to be the bottom feeders. And again, look how many teams in the West are doing that. It's Calgary, Chicago, Nashville, San Jose, St. Louis, and Vancouver. Oh my God. 6 out of the 8 teams right now in the bottom feeder spot that we have. Crazy. So, yeah. So, when I see Vancouver, yeah, you bring in Z William, who's going to be great for your future. Liam Holmgren, I think that he should be good, but again, you just don't know what you have from him yet. You fill in another spot on your checklist with Marco Rossi as your 2C. I think I love this team for the future, but again, you need that talent. You need that another guy coming in to make that difference. And whether that means you get a guy in McKenna, in Bierhoff, in Stenberg, and the many other good talents that we have in this top 10, this top 12, even arguably the top 15 right now. There are a lot. This is a deep draft. And I think Vancouver, if you're going to be tanking for a year or whatever, make it this year. Vegas, I love them as a cup favorite team, and I think you could easily put them in the playoff lock right now, but so much good is going for them right now. It's you kind of just have to look and appreciate how well they've done and just been so consistently as a playoff team. Like you add Mitch Marner, Jack Eichel's been good. Mark Stone, oh my goodness. The last time I checked, he had 24 points in 15 games. What? Like as a whole on the season, he's just been dominant. And I think that people really start to write him off, which is so crazy. It's the same thing as Drew Doughty, even though he has not been close to as good as Mark Stone has been this year. I think that injuries and just age kind of throw people off on what they're doing. And I think that for Vegas, I like them as a cup favorite. I think that in the reality that we're in right now, and again, it's a very touchy topic, but Carter Hart has been good for the most part. And you pair that with a healthy Aiden Hill, he comes back, and you can run a tandem like that when both guys are doing decent. You've kind of helped out your goalie problem. That decor is good. The forwards is deep and good. Vegas, I think, is a cup favorite, and maybe not as good as they think Colorado is or Dallas. And I think Vegas kind of sits with that Carolina spot for that top spot. I think you're gonna have to put them in there, and I think it's just they've been good, and that's fair. The Winnipeg Jets, again, that's where I think they're gonna be at the end of the season. Winnipeg Jets, I think we kind of have to go there right now until they add. I like the decor. Connor Hellebuck just makes that team so calm when he's on the ice compared to when he's away from this team. They play a whole different game, side to side. You put them together, you'd be like, are these two different teams? No, they're the same. It's just what he does for this team is so good. Now, I think there are some inconsistencies and depth problems with Winnipeg, and I do think they just make it at the end of the day with how good everything is. Probably for like a wild card, but when you talk about the Central right now, like Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota adds, you're getting a little, again, a murky area. And I think that's where Winnipeg's going to be sitting right now. Unfortunately for Jets fans, I'm sorry, but that's where they are. And that's what it is. The Utah Mammoth, we're almost the second last one here. You lose Logan Cooley for that long. I think that almost decimates your playoff chances, again, considering how good the West has been. I'll still put them in battling towards the end of the season, and maybe it might be that improvement spot. Again, I could see both, but I don't think they're going to be that bottom feeder. I think they do have some guys who can steal them some wins. I think Vejmelka has kind of been that this year, where he's got 15 wins on the season right now. Sergachev's been good. Of course, you still have a guy in Dylan Guenther. Barrett Hayden has kind of stepped up his game a little bit. And then there's just a bunch of other names. Nick Schmaltz has been fine, or has been honestly good. So I think at the end of the day, battling's fair, but it won't. Again, it might be that Toronto where you see them battling and they might be a little bit far out, or like the Kings and something like that. Again, so much can change from where we are right now, but that's where I'm going to put them. And then there's the Washington Capitals. Caps fans, you're feeling good right now. I think that's very, very fair considering how things are to where I think they could be at the end of the season. If you add, this team is so good. Like, keep in mind, Logan Thompson has played himself where he was out of a spot, arguably just because of politics, and now he played himself right into the starting role for Team Canada. He picks up another shutout tonight against the Toronto Maple Leafs. He looked great. He looked so good, poised, calm, cool, collected. You have to love what you see. Jacob Chikrin, what does he have? 14 goals on the season now. He had 2 rips tonight. Like, everything is going well for the Washington Capitals to a point where I think it's fair to put them at that as one of those Cup favorites. So this is where I see teams right now to where they could be at the end of the season. It's going to be very interesting and just, again, so much to talk about. So thank you for listening to me blab on and blab on. But let me know what you think about all this, because it was very interesting to go through each of these teams here to where I think they could be at the end of the season to where they are now. Again, let me know your thoughts. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, ring that bell. I want to hear what all of you have to say to where am I crazy? Am I smart? Am I kind of in the middle? I want to know, so let me know. But until next time, on Monday for the podcast, next Friday for another video, my name is Zach Stain. I hope you enjoyed, and we will talk soon.